Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a highly unconventional, maybe even radical model of leadership and community management. Now, just to set the stage, all the video and audio content we're analyzing today comes directly from the founder of Life Chan Yuan, Sufeng. He's sharing over 20 years of his own experience with two individuals who are just stepping into leadership roles. If you're used to corporate hierarchies, strict employee handbooks, or traditional top-down authority, well, you might want to buckle up. Sufeng's 8 principles of leadership completely reject conventional power structures. There are literally no orders given. It relies entirely on voluntary followership. And surprisingly, it prioritizes having fun over solemn duty. Let's look at how he builds this totally unique administrative worldview. Our entire explainer today is really anchored by this one core paradox from Sufeng. He says, guides and deans are not symbols of power, but code names for servants. He lays this out right out of the gate. You lead by serving, not by commanding. So, in this system, stepping into a leadership role doesn't mean you get to kick your feet up and boss people around. No way. It means you are stepping up to carry the absolute heaviest burden. You are there to serve the community, who he refers to in the text as Chanyuan grass. To make this all super easy to digest, we've organized Sufeng's 8 principles into a 5-part framework for you. We'll cover the roles of guides and deans, chaos management, the 2 purposes of Chanyuan, the zero tolerance policy, and finally, dedication and joy. So, let's get right into it. Section 1. The roles of guides and deans, the code names for servants. Now, what's really interesting here is how Sufeng splits leadership into 2 highly specific, totally non-overlapping roles. First up, you have the guide. This role is highly intellectual, highly theoretical. The guide points the path forward, writes explanatory articles to make sure every single concept is crystal clear, and, to use Sufeng's colorful phrasing, they're the first to rush forward to fight the theoretical monsters and wild beasts that pop up along the way. They defend the philosophy. But then you contrast that with the dean. The dean is deeply rooted in the practical, day-to-day grit of survival. Their core job is building what's called the second home. The dean's top priority is solving the most basic human needs for the members. We're talking food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and even dealing with sickness and aging. So one leads the mind and the other sustains the body. Moving on to Section 2, Minimalist Chaos Management, Leading Without Commanding. This is where Zui Feng's philosophy completely jumps the tracks from standard management theory. In Life Chan Yuan, chaos management means leading by example from the front lines, but with minimal administrative intervention. Zui Feng is absolutely adamant about this. Leaders can suggest things, sure, but they must never command, force, or even assign work to members. The strict rule is that a leader rushes to the production front line first and then simply waits. They wait for the brothers and sisters to voluntarily follow. He reminds his leaders that Life Chan Yuan is not a traditional organization, so they hold absolutely zero actual commanding authority. It's wild, right? He actually specifically warns against operating like traditional management. So, no detailed religious dogmas, no political structures, no corporate employee handbooks, period. Contrast that with his vision for what he calls Civilization 2.0, which is zero administrative rules and zero administrative interventions. The goal here is to create an environment totally stripped of standard regulations. Basically, the less administration, the better. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does a community actually function without a rulebook or religious commandments? Well, that brings us to this number, 800. Since there's no administrative oversight, followers are guided strictly by the 800 values of the new era, alongside the established production and daily life procedures of the second home. These concepts and procedures are the sole behavioral guidelines. The leaders don't micromanage anybody. Instead, the 800 values and the daily routines just naturally guide the community's behavior. Which takes us to Section 3, the 2 purposes of Chanyuan, the ultimate goals. So what is this all leading toward? I mean, without commands and rules, you really need a strong shared objective. According to Sufeng, every single activity must serve only 2 ultimate purposes, and any action outside of that should just be discarded. First, for the current life. Members are there to obtain happiness, joy, freedom, and bliss right now. The second goal is for the afterlife, for members to ascend to celestial environments, like the 1,000-year world once their life journey ends. What I really want you to take away from this is how explicitly Sufeng defines their scope. He clearly states that Life Chan Yuan is not a charity. Its main job isn't to solve humanity's earthly problems or forcefully drag the rest of humanity into Civilization 3.0. According to the text, bettering the world is just a byproduct of their existence, not their primary business. All right, Section 4, zero tolerance bottom line, cutting losses immediately. So the crucial point is, You might think a place with zero rules and a massive focus on joy sounds like a total free-for-all, but it's really not. This total freedom actually has a very hard, sharp edge. Shufang outlines a strict stop-loss policy. If a member violates the core values or procedures, the guide immediately revokes their membership name. Done. If a member causes mental, spiritual, or physical harm to another, and Shufang specifically highlights men harming women here, the dean is instructed to show zero mercy and expel them from the home instantly. Finally, there's a strict zero-tolerance policy for wasting resources on valueless properties, even if those properties are handed to the community for free. If it wastes time and resources, it is instantly rejected. But there is a vital caveat here: expulsion only. Shufang strictly forbids his leaders from enacting any form of legal, physical, or punitive measures against rule breakers. He notes that taking away a title or expelling someone from a private home doesn't break any laws. But anything beyond that, that is strictly the jurisdiction of the local country's legal and judicial system. The leaders have absolutely zero authority to punish. They can only remove you. And finally, Section 5, the essence of dedication and joy, the personal qualities of a leader. If you want to be a leader in this system, you can basically throw your resume right out the window. Shufang argues that things like broad knowledge, profound wisdom, and impressive titles are entirely secondary. They do not inspire true loyalty. The primary traits required are supreme personal quality, absolute dedication, and unmatched sacrifice. Think about it. In a system where you literally cannot command anyone to do anything, the only way people will actually follow you is if they see you sacrificing more than anyone else. Shufang backs this up with a personal anecdote. Reflecting on over 20 years of hardship, which included times when members were unjustly imprisoned, he asks himself why over 180 people were still willing to entrust their lives to him. His answer is captured perfectly in this quote: "I share life and death with the Chanyuan grass. This is what I say, and it is my commitment and code of conduct." He explains that people follow him simply because he keeps his promises. True loyalty, in his view, comes from absolute, proven commitment to the community, not from wielding a fancy title. And that leads us to his final, and maybe most surprising rule for leaders: playfulness, or huiwan in Chinese. A leader must know how to play. Shufang writes that the journey is full of hardships, but if you know how to play, mountains and rivers become easy to cross. He actively encourages joking around and injecting vitality into the community, because joy releases love. As he puts it, a joyful, happy collective is far superior to a rigid, solemn army of thousands. I mean, if you aren't having fun, he asks, what is the point of even trying to reach heaven? Which leaves us with this final thought. Shufang's blueprint for Life Shenyuan entirely subverts traditional administration as we know it. It replaces commands with voluntary follow-the-leader action, it replaces employee handbooks with 800 core values, and it insists that leaders must be self-sacrificing servants who know how to crack a good joke. But it begs the question, can a community truly thrive long-term on chaos management, personal sacrifice, and playfulness? Or is human nature ultimately too complex for a system completely devoid of conventional rules and administrative structure? It's a fascinating lens to view human organization through, and it certainly challenges everything we're taught about how to run a group. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the world around you is structured.